Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Small Bites. Thank you so much for coming back each week, for listening, for learning, and continuing to do the work. Please like and subscribe below, share Small Bites, and if you listen on the podcast, I would love you to go on to Apple and write a 5-star review. If you do, I would be more happy to thank you with one of these fun new things. Hey Tracy, hey mama. Look at that. One of those fun new stickers, which I probably you couldn't see well. At any rate, they're brand new and hot off the press. So if you'd like to leave a 5-star review, I would be happy to send you one. Just DM me on Twitter. Hey Bonnie, twice in one day. My friends are hanging out. So yeah, leave a review. I'd love to send you a sticker to say thank you. And I appreciate that you guys keep coming back. By the way, I would love to know who had Starbucks coffee. I went to check the gift card, so I know some people got it. And I would love to know who did drink it. I want some too. There might be a couple of somethings reloaded there. All right, so on to today's topic. As you know, this is a part of an 8-part series previewing the upcoming Finding Your Blind Spots. And this week it's about language and the way we can use language to be inclusive, or the way we sometimes forget to use language to be inclusive. Now, I grew up in the house with my great-grandmama, and she was actually still sharp, but occasionally she would just get names mixed up in her mouth. If you teach kids, you probably know this. You will call your kids 16 names until you get to the right one. And she would say, Brenda, Hedrick, until she got to the right name. And so sometimes we just forget, or now sometimes we don't really know what the proper terms are. I, for example, have been in my life colored, Negro, Black with a little b, Black with a big B, BIPOC, that is Black, Indigenous, person of color. Those are a lot of terms for a short lifetime. I did say short lifetime, by the way. So we may not know the terms. This week's resources talks about how important it is to be as specific and affirming as possible. And it also gives you some resources. I'll get to those a little later. Now, most of you know that I taught for many years in Switzerland. And when I taught there, it was the first time I got to be American. Now, you might, what that means is I wasn't Black American, colored American, Negro American. I was American, which was really a neat thing. Until one day, someone pulled me up and said, "Why are you guys so arrogant? All of the people of the North and South Americas are American. And the only real Americans were the indigenous peoples." It's like, wow, that's deep. And I thought about it, how we use terms and language. And I thought, why are we American? The Swiss, for example, don't say that they're European. Even though they live on the continent of Europe, they are not a part of the European Union. So they say they are Swiss, not European. So when we want to really be accepting and affirming, the best thing to do is to get to know our kids. We have to use, especially with data, there are just not so many things on the census. So we say, Black kids, brown kids, Asian kids. But when you ask your Asian kids, where are you from, you should find out, are they from Tibet? Are they from Nepal? Are they from India? Are they from China? Are they from Korea? There's actually a funny YouTube series. She names her video, "What kind of Asian are you?" But that's because that's what people ask. What kind of Asian are you? And I'm not advocating that you ask that. But, for example, my student was one year pre-A, and I said, I could not pronounce his last name. And I asked him to tell me how. And I said, "Oh, wow, where's your name from?" And he told me. So one year is Nigerian. He's not African. He said at first African. I said, yeah. What is African? African is like American. It's like European. It says absolutely nothing about the culture. So when you want to use culturally responsive, I hate saying that word, I mess it up every time. When you want to use culturally responsive pedagogies, you want to be as specific as possible and as affirming as possible. For example, how many of you hear, or sometimes maybe even say, "Oh, the gay guy"? The gay guy? Really? So you want to also use person first language. You also hear the sped kid. So think of language as person first and culturally affirming. I'm going to go on to the Friday Five. Again, this week, instead of using minute strategies, I'm pulling something from Finding Your Blind Spots, which does drop December 3rd. Please mark that date on your calendar. We're going to have a little something special, details to come. At any rate, the 5 strategies this week have to do with saying this, not this. The first, for example, well, how often we say the chairman, the mailman, the fireman, the stewardess, the male nurse, the congressman, mankind. And instead of those terms, you can say the chair, the committee chair, not chairman, the committee chair, the mail carrier, the firefighter, the flight attendant, the nurse, the congressional representative, humankind, human beings. And student first language, person first language would be, for example, instead of the handicapped student, the LD student, the SPED student, say, oh, you mean Jana. Or you can say the student in the wheelchair, or the student who has a learning disability, or the student who is neurodiverse. Those are person first terms. They don't label, oh, the autistic kid. He's not an autistic kid, he's a person who has autism. And that makes you, that humanizes all of those terms. So it goes into things like, for example, the name of this episode is Nigerian, not African. You know, Wanyapri and I, we share a color, we share melanin, but we don't share a culture. So Black means so many things. Are you from the Caribbean? If you're from the Caribbean, where? Are you from Trinidad and Tobago? Are you from the Dominican? Are you from Jamaica? All of those places have cultures. So be specific, be gender affirming. And if you'd like to practice, I actually have a sentence and it's on my Twitter feed. If you go check Twitter, you can find me and find the sentence. It's my last post before this. And it says, use the chart and the Purdue resources here on Hedrick.com to rewrite the following sentence in the most inclusive, specific, and affirming terms possible. So I'm going to use this very incorrect sentence. Make sure you know this is a very incorrect sentence, and you can think about rewriting it and how you could use the things that you learn in Purdue's resources and in my resources to shape person first, culturally affirming language. Here's the sentence. The American Indian SPED kid plays basketball when he doesn't have tutoring. Now, mind you, this student is non-binary, identifies as they, singular they, and is Chickasaw and has autism. Okay, so that's who this child is, and or some of the things that he is. But the sentence is, the American Indian SPED kid plays basketball when he doesn't have tutoring. So that is my short, I was gonna say kurz, I'm thinking in German today. My very short quiz for you. Check it out on Twitter. It's also, of course, on Hedrick.com, along with all the rest of the resources. I would love to thank you all for, very, 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 a person who uses a wheelchair, a person, not a wheelchair-bound person, a person who uses a wheelchair. All right. So, guys, thank you again for coming back each week, for listening, for learning, and for going out and using what you learned to be a more inclusive, more welcoming educator for every kid every day. Thank you so much again. Oh, make sure you read the comments. I'm looking at some good stuff popping in there. Tracy, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Bonnie, thank you. I see you as well. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.